Mike, check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and limited edition Nintendo Switch games might not make sense anymore, at least for most collectors. And I want to talk about some of the differences that I've seen in terms of collecting habits for limited edition Switch games, because this is something that I used to collect for very heavily, but that changed over time. Now, at the peak of limited runs run, and not just limited run, but strictly limited, limited run, special reserve, Nicalis, all of these companies, a lot of times when they released some of their games, they also released these limited editions with it. And it felt like, I want to say between 2021, 2022, it felt like that was like the thing to buy. And I remember buying a lot of limited edition games because of what came in the box. You know, you got a lot of goodies. But over time, I started to realize that not all limited edition games came with enough items that made it worth it for me. And what I saw with a lot of special edition or limited edition Switch games was you got maybe like an art book, maybe some stickers. In some cases, you got a CD or something like that. But it didn't justify two things. First, it didn't justify the increased price that you would have to pay for these limited editions. So that was part one. And then part two was the space factor. I mean, some of these boxes can get pretty large, and these aren't even the largest boxes that we're talking about when you start to think about limited edition Switch games. When you think about the limited edition Xenoblade, or the limited edition Breath of the Wild, or the limited edition any limited edition big box game, it's going to take up a considerable amount of space on your shelf. And you could probably fit 20 to 30, standard Switch games in the space of some limited edition boxes. And so between the price factor and the space factor, the limited edition games just kind of stopped making sense, not just for me, but for a lot of people. And the reason why I may be speaking anecdotally and just from personal experience, but I remember when I went to go sell a huge chunk of my Switch collection, and that video is still up on my channel somewhere. A part of me trying to sell a lot of those games was me trying to get rid of a lot of my limited edition games. And at the point at which where I was selling my Switch games, a lot of my limited edition games were getting rejected, primarily because a lot of game store owners were telling me that the limited edition games for the Nintendo Switch just weren't selling as fast. Not a lot of people were interested in them because, one, again, the price and the space. You know, when you start collecting for the Nintendo Switch, I've said it in another video, it can really become a black hole of collecting. And if you try to collect a lot of limited edition games, you will very quickly run out of space in your game room. Not only that, for those who care, what I started to also realize was that the value, right, just wasn't really there. A lot of people were collecting these limited edition games thinking that in the future they were going to increase in value and increase in price. And in a lot of cases with certain Switch games, the standard edition is actually worth more than the limited edition for two reasons. The two biggest reasons why I said, which is the price and the space factor, but also you're not getting enough inside that limited edition box to warrant the extra price that you're going to pay. Now, I will say that there are certain limited edition Switch games where you do get the bang for the buck and it is worth it for you, whether you're someone who just really loves to have limited edition games or not. And obviously, value is based on it's subjective, right? We all have our different ideas of what we consider to be value. But to me, if I'm getting more than an art book, more than a CD, more than just a pamphlet, then it might make the purchase a little bit more easy for me to digest. And I've got a couple examples here. So the first example that I could share is my limited edition copy of Huntown. Now, yes, my limited edition copy is still sealed, but the reason why is for two reasons. One, Huntown is one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch. It is everything I love about 90s run and gun action video games. This game takes everything I love about Contra, Metal Slug, The Terminator, all of those types of games, and it rolls it into this super cool, well done. The voice acting in this game is superb. The amount of different weapons that you can use, the level designs, the boss battles, just the way each character has their own different version of a grenade. or in some cases like a boomerang. You know, there's just so much going on in this game that this is one of the few games on the Switch that I've beaten over and over and over again. And this is, again, probably top 20 Switch games for me. Huntdown is an amazing game. So a big part of the reason why I kept my copy sealed is because not only do I have this game on the Switch, but I also have it on the PlayStation 4. And I remember when I first got this game, I actually downloaded it first before buying a physical copy. And I played this game a bunch. But then when they announced that they were coming out with the physical version, I knew immediately that I would at least have to get the standard edition. But once I saw they had a limited edition, I wanted to get it because first of all, the box is just sick. The box has this like, you know, it gives it kind of like this beat up look to it. This really isn't damage to the box. They just do it this way to give it that rugged look. So that's one of the biggest parts of the reason why I got this collector's edition. But the other reason why I got this collector's edition is because you get so much inside the box outside of the video game. And I'm going to use my PlayStation 4 copy to kind of show you an example of what you get when you purchase this limited edition, because my PlayStation 4 copy is unsealed. So when you get these limited edition versions, you wind up getting one of the 3 playable characters in the game. In this case, I got this dude, I can't remember his name right now, but I got him. And when you get one of these characters and you open the box up, you kind of get a bunch of just really cool stuff. And you guys are gonna have to pardon me, I have to put you guys down, hang on. So I can open this box and you guys can see what I'm talking about. But here we go. So when you open up the box, so of course you get the game. I have the game. I've played the game. I've beaten the game a bunch of times. So this is my sealed PlayStation 4 copy. But in this box, you get some pins. So some really cool looking nostalgic 90s pins in here, which is really dope. You get these patches. These are actual patches that you could put on the back of your book bag. You could put them on a hat. You could put them on a jacket. And these patches are the names of all of the gangs, because you have to fight like 7 or 8 different, I can't remember how many gangs, but you go into these different gang turfs. You play all the, you know, fight against all the gangsters, and then you have to play the gang leader. Those are the bosses at the end of each stage. So here you get a patch for each gang in the game. Heat Seekers is one of the gangs, so really dope. And then one of the coolest parts is that you also get an action figure, like an actual action figure in this, in this limited edition box here. So John Sawyer, that's who he is. Like, again, John Sawyer. How 90s is that name? John Sawyer? It's crazy. It's like one step away from John Connor. But anyway, so John Sawyer is who you get in this box, and you get the very detailed action figure. Well done, in my opinion. I think it pretty decently done action figure. You get his two of his main weapons here with him in the game. In the back, you obviously get, you know, a list of all the different action figures. So there's a number of different action figures that you can get. You have the 3 main characters there, the playable characters: Anaconda, John Sawyer, and Mo-Man, and then all of the different gangsters and gang leaders in the game. Very, very nostalgic. You get that. You do get an old school instruction manual. So this is about the size of maybe like a Super Nintendo instruction manual, or maybe an NES instruction manual, which I thought was pretty cool as well. It's got all the different guns. Look at all the different guns you can and weapons you can use in this game. Molotov cocktails, grenades, cluster bombs. These are all the different weapons that you can use in the game. It's just super sick. And then not only do you get that, but then you also get a pretty cool art book as well. So in my mind, this is value. Like, this is a collector's edition. Like, this is how you're supposed to do a collector's edition. This is the type of stuff that you're supposed to get when you order a collector's edition video game. And not all Switch games give you this, you know, this level of detail. They don't all give you all of this stuff when you order the game, and or when you order the special edition. And this is a big part of the reason why I don't buy all special editions that come out. I do get some, but I won't get all. Another quick example would be River City Girls Zero Edition. I mean, here you get 2 action figures with changeable faces, right, of the main characters. You're able to change their hand position and different things like that. And I mean, this right here alone, just getting these two action figures are two really cool collector's pieces, especially if you're a big fan of the River City Girls franchise. Now, in my opinion, River City Girls 1, the first River City Girls is my favorite River City Girls game. I know they came out with a River City Girls 2, they came out with a River City Girls 0, and I think there's one more. I might be mistaken. But this is value to me, and these are the reasons why I would get a special edition game. Now, I have other special edition Switch games that come with other things like mini arcades that you can play the games on. I have some special edition Switch games that actually come with a mini Game Gear. You know, those are the types of limited edition Switch games that make sense to me for anyone who's still buying a Switch game or a limited edition Switch game, or even if you get something like a statue. I know there are some, I don't know if Breath of the Wild is one of them, but I know there are some limited edition Switch games that do come with like an actual statue, you know, art piece of the main character and different things like that. And those are the things that make limited edition games worth it. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the limited edition games that we get for not just Switch games, but I guess PlayStation 4 and even PlayStation 5 games, they're really not giving you a whole lot. And I don't feel like paying that extra price and taking up the extra space on my gaming shelves for like pamphlets and coloring books and CDs. I'm good with that. But if you're giving me like true nostalgic collector pieces that I can either keep sealed and save for the future or actually take out and use, like I can actually, and I might actually put some of these pins, but you know, put some of these pins on like a book bag or maybe on a hat or a jacket, take some of these patches and patch them onto a jacket. I think that that is really cool and you're getting some utility out of it, you know. Or even if I decided to give the toy to one of my kids that's like age appropriate to play with action figures, that's something that they can actually play with. So this is where I think, you know, the limited edition really comes in, and this is where I think you get the best bang for your buck. But for a while, we weren't seeing people willing to spend the money on limited edition games, especially for the Switch 1. Well, now the Switch 2 is out, right? And it seems like, honestly, in my opinion, it feels like the Switch 2 has breathed more life into the Switch 1 than the Switch 2. I feel like the Switch 2 has just invigorated Switch 1 users and has just turned a lot of people's attention back to the Switch 1, and it has them diving back into their Switch 1 library. And I think it's going to be interesting as people start to, you know, collect for the Switch again and collect for the Switch 2, because there's really not much you can collect for the Switch 2 right now, right? There's not a lot of games out for it. So if you do have a Switch 2 and you never had a Switch 1, right? Let's say you never owned the first Switch, you got a Switch 2 as your first console, and you've pretty much bought all the Switch 2 games, naturally you're going to start looking at the Switch 1 library to see, okay, what's out there? What can I get? What games can I play? Because you're going to want to add to that collection. And I think if you're someone looking at purchasing limited edition Switch games, getting the best bang for your buck is what makes sense to me. They take up a lot of space. They're usually they're sometimes double, in some cases triple the price of just a standard game. And a lot of times you're not really getting a lot with that. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that limited edition Switch games are still popping here in 2025? Do you think that's still the move? Or do you think most Switch collectors are kind of over the limited edition stuff? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.